Thank you, Douglas, and good morning. It's great to be here with you all. So, again, I'm Mike Kuntz, and I lead manufacturing for Nestle in the U.S. I've been with Nestle for just at 23 years. Moved around to several countries and around the U.S. about every 3 years during that time. Currently based in Solon, Ohio, just east of Cleveland, where we have our operational headquarters for the U.S. Supply chain procurement and manufacturing. A little bit about Nestle in the U.S. You'll probably hear, I think there's another presentation tomorrow around more of a global perspective on Nestle. I'll give you a little bit more of a local perspective. We have 3 operating companies in the U.S., food and beverage, which is the one that I lead manufacturing for. We also have Purina Pet Care and Nestle Health Science. So we're making everything from frozen DiGiorno pizzas and Stouffer's, lean cuisine, to Starbucks retail coffee, Nescafe Coffee Mate, to Nestle Toll House cookie dough and morsels, to Gerber baby food, to Purina Pet Care, to Nestle Health Science Boost and medical products, and Nature's Bounty. So lots of different types of products across the U.S., and I would say a very diversified manufacturing network, so lots of different technologies, everything from spray drying to liquid aseptic beverage manufacturing to sauce cooking and assembly to freezing. So very diverse, which makes life for me very interesting across our different factories. At the same time, it also poses a unique challenge when it comes to creating shared value and sustainability. And I'm here today to talk to you about how sustainability and what we've learned can help, I think, your sustainability goals by reducing energy costs and consumption at your sites through a comprehensive energy management program, which hopefully you'll see we've adopted, and it's a pretty simple and straightforward approach, and I think it's been impactful for us. We know that Douglas talked about tariffs. We also know that energy costs in the U.S. and quite frankly around the world continue to rise. So it's a real challenge for us and keeps me up at night in terms of trying to determine how we're going to reduce year-over-year conversion costs at our sites, as well as our end-to-end value chain costs when you think about costs of fuel and logistics in our DCs as well as our factories. At the same time, we know that the global CO2 emissions, it is a global problem, and society really expects companies like ours to act on reducing our environmental impact. So I think if for your companies, I saw a vast array of different companies that are here represented. What I'd also like to share is if your company has shied away from your sustainability commitments due to cost, that there are win-win solutions that I think that are out there that could also help you along the way to where you can actually reduce your footprint, carbon footprint, and at the same time reduce your operating costs. So basically, I'll take us through creating shared value and how we're bringing it to life in manufacturing in Nestle, in the U.S. specifically. Share with you a simple framework for creating shared values and again, bringing it to life in manufacturing, our progress to date, and then at the end, answer any questions that you may have for me. So, at Nestle, we believe in creating shared value for our planet, for society, and for our businesses. And as I shared, we have 12 different businesses just in the U.S. alone and many more globally. Our company has committed to reaching zero net greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, and at the same time, we have a commitment to have our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, which is right around the corner as you look at where we're currently at. We're proud of the progress we've made so far, but we also know that there's much more work to be done in this area. What I would say is our strategy is a holistic life cycle approach to determining the carbon footprint of all of our products. And it really involves work across the entire value chain. It starts with the farmers. We do a lot of work with a lot of our farmers in terms of helping them improve their productivity, helping them understand how they can reduce their carbon emissions from the farms, and helping them embrace regenerative agricultural practices at the farms. As you can imagine, we have a lot of commodity-type ingredients that we're managing across the globe. So that's a big priority for us. At the same time, we're working on packaging. That's designing our packaging for recyclability. It's reducing the amount of packaging materials that we use. And it's also working on improving the infrastructure so that packaging can be recycled. We're also working with logistics providers, so that would be around developing more efficient routes. Basically cubing out the truck or whatever the container is, maxing that out, right? Get rid of the air. And then it's also looking for more renewable sources of fuel when it comes to logistics. And then finally, it's working with consumers, and for example, like packaging material, educating consumers on how they can recycle the packaging material, because if they don't know where or how to recycle, and it ends up in litter or it ends up in a landfill somewhere, obviously it's not helping us achieve our objective. So this morning, I'm going to hone in from that value chain I just described to you, the work we're doing end to end, more so on just the operations and specifically what we're doing in manufacturing, which is what I'm responsible for all the operations across the U.S. I'm going to share with you how we're reducing the carbon footprint in our factories by driving energy efficiency and also switching to renewable sources of energy where possible. I'm going to also share a little bit about where we started in our journey, and what I would say is probably like a lot of big corporations, we set out on this big ambition of net zero by 2050 without a plan, without a clear path to get there. I would say for my team and for a lot of us, we were really concerned. It felt overwhelming to have this kind of objective without a clear path to get there until we developed a simple framework to break it down. And that framework is what I'm sharing with you here on the slide, the strategic framework for getting to net zero. And it comes down to three things. It's reduce, rethink, and replace. Reduce is more short-term focused on easy wins and low-cost sustainable solutions that we're able to do while just getting a lot of our equipment back to base condition. I would say reduce has been the biggest impactor over the last few years that we've been able to make a real dent. When it comes to rethink, that is more, I would say, engineering focused on CapEx, and when we do new CapEx projects in our sites, it's about designing in sustainable solutions at that point so that we're able to set up the right footprint for the future. And then the last piece is around replacing. I would say that's more high capital intensive infrastructure type projects where we know that there's technology out there, however, it's not really economically viable yet. However, we are doing a lot of pilot projects to be able to start shaping those type of technologies so that in the future, when they do become economically viable, we'll be able to move with speed. So the first one on reduce, wanted to share a little bit. This one, as I said, was the biggest impactor for us, the easy wins. Where we started, we really, with all our over 50 factories that we were looking at here, we really didn't have a great understanding of our energy usage, our water usage. We didn't really have good, in terms of technology in place to meter, to be able to see real time how we were consuming, where our losses were, et cetera. So where we started was we built a prioritized list, prioritized the losses and really our energy usage, water usage across all of our sites. That was the first step, was just to get a better understanding. The next step was around, we actually sent in teams, small technical teams to all our sites And we conducted targeted optimization visits for each of our factories. So basically, this was boots on the ground, walking the floor, looking for the high heat processes, high energy consumption processes in the factories, and basically started to do some brainstorming as we were going through the sites. And we found this to be really beneficial. The teams came up with over 1,000 new improvement ideas for and again, I'm talking more low-hanging fruit, easy wins, low-cost type solutions that we could do. We found a few common pain points in all of our sites. And the pain points you see here on the slide, it was around air leakage, steam leakage, water leakage, hot pipes lacking proper insulation. So that was one of the first common themes we found. And what we came up with as far as solutions were relatively simple. We leveraged some digital cameras, like acoustic cameras for identifying air leaks. We came up with infrared cameras for identifying where we had failed steam traps and piping that's lacking proper insulation. So we were able to really just use, technology, and not expensive technology, just to give you a sense of all those factories I just mentioned. We spent about $500,000, and it was less than a year payback within a year, basically, and we were able to implement and move with speed. So I think that was probably the first one that I would definitely recommend, is just to get to know your sites a little better and really understand where the heavy users are when it comes to energy and water, and to really look for simple fixes like this one. The other common problem that we found in a lot of our sites was highly variable operating efficiencies of our utility equipment and high heat processes. So again, those are obviously big energy users. We were surprised to find that we were not in baseline condition on a lot of this equipment, which was somewhat surprising, because you kind of just think that at the site you've got engineering managers, maintenance managers who are looking after these things. But we found in a lot of cases that we were all over the place. So one of the first things we did here was we tuned all our boilers just to get back to baseline condition. And at the same time on our boilers, we added heat recovery heat recovery systems to all of our boilers. And that was basically using boiler exhaust to heat in-feed water. And this was done, we started at two of our highest usage factories. This was our Stouffer's factories in Gaffney, South Carolina, and Springville, Utah, which were some of our bigger users. We started there, and then once we were able to prove it in to be viable and it was delivering the results, then we scaled it to our other factories. And I think that's another common theme you'll find through this presentation is we would start small, we'd be focused, we'd prove a solution in, and then we'd move with speed to scale it up across other sites. And then our third step was going after our high heat processing equipment. And in this case, we installed advanced process controls. And that really helped us to get dialed in and operate with precision and at the highest efficiency levels, and to keep us in control for those high heat processes. So we had one of our Purina factories, they have a dryer that uses about over 50% of the natural gas for the factory. So we targeted that dryer, we implemented the advanced process controls there, we're able to prove it in, had tremendous savings as well, and then now we're working to scale that across other factories that have similar type of processes. So again, in this case, less than a 1-year payback for the APC solution, which is, again, there's a lot of APC solutions out there. We have a few other type of solutions we're using for not only energy, but just better moisture, humidity control and processing, and we're finding that that's really benefiting our operations. So the next one is more around rethinking. And so really, let me go back here. Okay, so the next step here, after we basically made the improvements across the sites that I just talked about, it was really about sustaining the gains. So I would say to sustain the gains, we implemented digital solutions for process monitoring and control. This was a big win for us, for our sites, and I would say especially around site culture, because for the first time, a lot of our operators were aware of the energy they were using. I think a lot of them are aware of the stoppages and the efficiency losses and overfills and all the types of other things that you're trying to manage in a factory, but not really as aware on energy and the cost of energy and what it does to the overall cost of the operation. So being able to leverage some digital systems, and just a few here I highlighted, we have digital daily management routines where the operators are basically going around and monitoring, and they're tasked with improving, finding ways to improve and reduce the waste and the energy and water usage. And we use some pretty simple technology here as well. We've been leveraging sensors. I mean, we're leveraging sensors for a lot of different opportunities in our factories, but in this case, it's sensors around energy, to provide feedback into this digital manufacturing operation system is like a daily management. It's like using an MES system. So basically the sensors are providing in-feed back into a data analytics platform, which then we can use to do more planning and predictive maintenance. We've also started, we went to the robotic dog pound, I guess you will, and we have Spot the Dog, which maybe some of your sites are using as well, but basically it's a robotic, looks like a dog that's trekking around the factory with all kinds of sensors, doing all kinds of checks to alert when processes are outside the norm or there's abnormal conditions that we need to attend to. So it helps us really address the issues and be able to resolve issues a lot faster so we don't let it continue to dwell. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to say here is as we've gotten better data and intelligence around our energy usage, our engineering teams have worked with our procurement, and really it's helped us strengthen our third-party partnerships for cost efficiencies. So as we know what we're really using, we know peaks, we know we have a lot more intelligence. It also helps when you think about leveraging negotiations with your energy providers. So I think that was the other benefit that we saw with this, because in the past we were a little bit in the dark, so it's kind of hard to be able to have an intelligent conversation around where we feel we should be getting better rates because of improved efficiencies. So then moving from reduce into the rethink, I would say that our rethink strategy is pretty simple. It's really about future-proofing our capital investments. And why? Because we believe that every dollar we spend today shapes the footprint that we leave for tomorrow. I would say for every project now, we expect that our engineers are considering sustainable solutions when it comes like heat recovery or like renewable sources of fuel. So that's in every new project. So any kind of investment that we're planning to put into our sites, that's a basic expectation, is that's part of their holistic analysis. And then from there, they'll take that information to the business leadership to determine if it's viable for the business. So in some cases, we'll find that, okay, it's really not economically viable yet. But then what's interesting is when you have this many different types of technologies, we'll find in one area that we were able to find a breakthrough solution, and then we can challenge in other areas, well, hey, did you actually think about this angle on this technology? So that's also been very helpful, I think, just changing the mindset. Few examples too I just wanted to call out that were more tangible. We have our new Glendale, Arizona beverage factory that we just built. It's been about a year and a half now. And when we did that design, we decided to forego big boilers and refrigeration systems, and basically we went with heat pumps. And the heat pumps helped, with recycling the heat for process cooling. We were able to take our boilers and refrigeration systems, and they were half the size of what they otherwise would have been had we not used the heat pump. So There's applications for that now as well, that we're finding savings and we're finding a lot of efficiency gains. Another example is in our Coffee Mate factory in Anderson, Indiana, which uses, it's aseptic filling, high heat processes, and a lot of the old fillers that we have are wet sterilization fillers. So as we're phasing those out, we're going with dry sterilization technology, which cuts out on water, energy. It's tremendously more efficient than what we were doing in the past. And at the same time, we also were using discharge water from the factory to heat incoming city water, which saved over $1 million just like that, just changing to that solution. And that was, again, less than a 1-year payback. So I think some good tangible solutions of things you can be looking at and doing that really aren't that expensive, but they can yield really good payback. And again, I think the last point here is that our key learning was that there are sustainable solutions out there that are very cost effective. We just needed to challenge our engineering teams to find them. So as we set that expectation, they started bringing better solutions to the table. And then when it comes to replace, what I would say here is this is mostly technologies that are newer or emerging. They're still high cost, but I wanted to share, we are in these areas, we do have some pilot plant trials. So as I shared, we're investing in a focused way to help develop technologies, and as those technologies become available, then we plan to scale those and bring them online to the broader network. A few examples, in our Purina factories, we start using biomass boilers here in the US. We've got biomass boilers around the world, Nestle in Latin America, in Asia, and in Europe now. We're bringing on one of our factories in Eden, North Carolina. We also have biodigesters as well. We're starting up one of our factories in Hartwell using biodigester. And then for cooling towers, we started in a few factories, and now we've scaled to 6 of the factories that are using chemical-free cooling towers for descaling, which again, as we're finding, these solutions still are more expensive, so it's not something that you can do on a broad base, but we're finding when we have opportunities, we're starting to invest and develop this now, so we're ready for when these solutions become economically viable. The last one is around carbon capture from high heat processes, so that's another one that we're just starting to engineer that project now. But we expect that as these technologies evolve, we'll be able to take advantage of them, and to help us achieve our goal of net zero by 2050. So the results, I think they've been pretty substantial for us. I mean, what you see here on this slide, it's been since 2023, so it's just been a few years. This simple, actionable approach of reduce, rethink, and replace has yielded 44% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions just in our factories. The 20% you see there, that's across the entire value chain. So the factories, even though they're a lot, I would say the carbon emissions, a lot of it comes from ingredients, dairy, and the raw ingredients. But the factory impact that we've made has been substantial on the overall end-to-end value chain. At the same time, I haven't focused so much on water, but we've saved over 525 million gallons of water. And again, a lot of it just back to the reduce initiatives that I was sharing with you, just understanding leaks and fixing leaks and finding ways to use less water, take water out of the process completely, which obviously also has food safety benefits as well. And then when it comes to energy, saved in just the last few years alone over 1.4 million gigajoules, which is really good improvement. And I would say that the savings aspect, like I shared at the beginning, you can reduce your environmental footprint while saving money. And just in the last few years across the sites, it's been over $23 million. And just by setting these annual targets for the factories and our engineering teams, we've been seeing about $8 million a year net savings in continuous improvement. So again, overall, really good benefits we're seeing from it. Like I said, we still have a lot of work to do, but feel like we're on the right path. So what I'd like to leave you with, if you had to boil it down to just a few points, I think the first is that the strategic framework of reduce, rethink, and replace can be a powerful step to accelerate your sustainability journey. From experience, our learning is to start small, but start now. I think that these actions don't just protect the planet, but they can unlock real financial value for your business. What I'd leave you with as you head out of this room today and you go back with your teams is to ask them one simple question. What are they doing today to reduce waste and rethink your processes to make an impact? And then I think in reality, the sustainability isn't just a cost for the business, but it can be a real competitive advantage. And the leaders who act now will shape our future. So I think we strongly believe in that as well. Why we're getting invested in a lot, I didn't share, but we're doing investing here just in Texas with renewable energy, with solar farms, et cetera. But as we're able to invest in shaping, where society's headed, where government's headed, et cetera, it's also, we believe it's going to help pave the way for a brighter future for our businesses as well. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions you may have.
Yeah, thanks for this information. Great results and great engagement with your team with the number of ideas that came from within all those plans. One of the question I had is with regards to like landfill efforts that the plants have done to reduce material going to landfills.
Yeah, so good question, and then I tried to focus it more on the greenhouse gas emissions, but on landfill, so all our factories in the US are zero landfill. Now, having said that, we started with, and when I say reducing waste, it's also material waste. We've done a lot on recyclable, so anything we can recycle. Anything, obviously, reducing the waste that goes out of our factories is one of the best ways, right? Getting everything into the product or into the package versus down the drain. So that has been a big win for us. And we've done a lot with, recycle partners. If there's product that we have to, if we can send it to, pig feed, compost, whatever the option is to keep it out of landfill. I mean, and then the other piece is there is a certain level of incineration as well, which is, again, it's where we're at today. It's not ideal. We'd like to keep, keep as much of the product and material in the package as possible. And so that's where a lot of our focus is. And that's why I say even in these daily management routines, there's a big focus on waste reduction as well and making sure that we're as effective as possible in our processes and day-to-day operation. Thanks for the question.
First off, I want to congratulate you on all the great work that you're doing and sharing the knowledge of how to implement what are lofty goals that make real impact. My question is, have you looked out through your distribution network or your inputs for raw materials and what kind of carbon reducing efforts could be made working with those vendors?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we do some things like with responsible sourcing, like with our procurement, we'll work with our vendors on, for example, getting to 100% of all our key materials being, deforestation, that assessment, making sure that we're not contributing to that problem. At the same time, with those responsible sourcing surveys, we'll work with vendors on continuous improvement. Having said that, I would say that, and we've moved faster because the factories being within our control. On the vendors, there's definitely work underway, and we're doing it in a focused, prioritized way where we have the biggest, ingredients that we have the largest, usage of, that have the biggest impact on the overall. So we are putting a lot of effort in there, but I think there's still a lot of work we can do there. So I'd be interested if anybody has inputs after this on what you all are doing. That would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, well, and it's the other side of it is just too there's the whole aspect of waste in distribution based on forecasts and what our businesses intend to deliver in terms of sales, and if that mix doesn't come in the way it's expected, and then we have shelf life issues, and I mean that whole piece. We have a lot of work underway on that, just getting that right, and it's a balance. I'm sure for the supply chain folks in here, it's a balance between being more precise with the forecasting and predictability and being able to know our consumers better and our customers and being more intimate with that. And on the other side, it's about building more agile, supply chain networks, which is another big piece in this equation, is making sure that the more agility that we're building in, which is digital and all the different technologies, that's also helping. But yeah, it still is a big challenge for us, and I think we still have a lot of work to do to fix that. Thanks for the question.
I'd like to say great work and everything you've done. I see how the plant, how it started with folks on the floor recognizing the problems. How has Nestle considered the future where all the hard work that you've done, looking at the steam leaks, water leaks, et cetera, are addressed in perpetuity? Because I figure that there's a time where it's a culture shift really to recognize that this is something we need to continuously do, or the hard work that we've done will be lost. What's your thoughts on continuing those efforts?
Yeah, I think so thanks for that question, and it's a challenging one. On the one side, things like, let's say, spot the dog or having equipment sensors that you can get continuous feedback on how it's performing, and if it starts to go outside of, control, that we can be alerted and take action. At the same time, you can't put sensors on everything, and the more our operators understand or master the equipment that they operate, I think the better off we are. The continuous challenge in that is, and I'm sure like a lot of your facilities, through COVID, coming out of COVID, now with the next generation of worker in the factories, we have turnover issues that we are challenged with. And so there's this whole employee value proposition. How do we show people career paths so they want to stay? Because I think having the mastership on the day-to-day operations goes a long way. And when operators really know, they can hear, they can see, they can smell, there's those data inputs as well that we can then take action more real time when issues occur. So I do think that there's a balance between both. I think it's leveraging technology. So when the more data in feeds we have, and we have alerts that we can take action before we have a major issue, and at the same time, continuously develop the talent we have in our factories to where they want to stay, they see a career path, because we do find that the people who really know and care make the biggest difference at the end of the day. I mean, I talk about sustainability being our competitive advantage, but at the end of the day, I truly believe it's people that are a competitive advantage, right? And if we have the best people, the best talent, and they're all in and they care, we're going to perform, we're going to deliver on what we need to. Thank you. Any other questions? 2.
If you think about the short and long term, because now with tariffs and the pressure of inflation or labor, it's easy to go for stage 1 and 2 to rethink and reuse, but not necessarily to this stage. Mm-hmm. How do you manage your stakeholders to have the focus and keep driving the experimentation for the sector?
So the balance between the short term and long term, I think it's certainly within the factories, I would say more focus on the short term. They're focused on daily management and execution and executing with excellence. So back to the continuous improvement, making sure that we continuously improve our processes to be efficient and as effective as possible. So I'm looking to them for more the short term. Now, if they have big ideas, I mean, people now, there's so much access to information. Some of our best ideas come from our frontline hourly operators, truly. So I think getting their feedback back to continuous improvement and talent development and all those things, But then there still needs to be people who are more focused on long-term. So I say we do have some of our like corporate engineers and some of the senior leadership looking and developing some of the technologies I was talking about. So I would say that we have people more focused on that, so that they can be part of developing and shaping the future solutions. And they're a little bit less, they're a little bit out of the day-to-day and more into the higher level, forward-thinking, more breakthrough type solutions. So I do think it's a little bit of focus, right? Because you can't focus on the short term and the long term at the same time. So it is a little bit about how we distribute the work to make sure that we have the team, the right people focusing on the right things. Okay, well, thank you very much.